Right.
All right, me and Brett are here today to talk about pricing for growth and also directly related to why tech companies go out of business and why they can never move out of their garage or why they can't move from ever being a one-man show or a lot of other related things to it, because it comes down to pricing your products, pricing your services, and we were joking around just before here. We tried not to do too much tree talk. We laughed because I told him, I said, do you know how I recognize a tech company is going to go out of business right away, especially in the IT service field? They start with a headline, I'm cutting everyone's prices. I'm going to beat everyone by half. I'm just going to do services for half of what Tom charges, and I'm going to beat you at it. And I've been in business for 15 years.
Yep.
I've actually had that told to me directly.
Have you ever seen it on a sign or anything? We'll beat Tom's prices.
Yes. So, fun story directly related to this. We had advertised prices for like the laptop screen repair at my retail store. Another retail store opens up down the street and
Really?
copies my sign exactly, same wording and everything. Obviously they put their logo on it, not mine.
Really?
Yeah. And then charge almost half what we charge. I don't know how they were doing it. Now, my favorite part was he used to, we stocked all the screens for repair, and he didn't. So he used to come down asking us for screens.
Oh,
and I
wow.
would sell them to him for the same price he was charging for the repair. And he says, how am I supposed to make any money at that? I'm like, that's really not my problem. And he would say, he'd even try to explain to me his business method was to get a bunch of customers and directly compete with me. Like, he'd tell me this. And by getting the parts from me, and he didn't care if he lost money for a while because he was going to make it up in the long term. How's that work out for people, Brett?
That doesn't work out very well. Their insurance companies are notorious for doing that. When they call it buying a market. And when you go into buy a market and you sit there and undercut everybody, at some point you're going to have to raise prices. And it's funny as the consumer, some consumers are key on this and they key in on it, but a lot don't, because in a lot of things, a lot of people are trying to get the best price, or they're trying to get the cheapest price. And don't forget, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And when they try to get that cheap price, I mean, so you get an insurance company that'll come into a market, or some other company that'll come into a market like you just said, and advertise that they're going to give you the best rates. They're going to cut your rates in half. It's going to be half the price. Eventually, yeah, it's going to be that, and you might get a good product. But what's going to happen is eventually, if you're still continuing to use those people, the price is going to go up. And most likely it's going to go up over a period of time that you're not going to notice it, and eventually you end up paying more than what you would have paid for using somebody else.
Yeah, and the other side, especially when you come to the IT service business, which I can directly speak to, is the customers you get with that. And one came in the other day, and he kept saying we were too expensive for things, which was normal, and he told us backups were too expensive too, and now his business is in a level of chaos of losing all the data that he lost, and it was an accounting firm. And the guy is just that. So he went back and forth between using us and using this other guy who charged him 1/3 of what we charged. So, but of course, the guy who charges 1/3 is very busy. The guy is definitely busy, and he doesn't return phone calls sometimes for a week at a time. So when this person wasn't returning a phone call, he comes back and calls us. And he agrees to pay our rates. He still complains about them. He lets us know each time, your rates are just way too high. I only pay one. I know, but you're calling us because he's not answering the phone. Is how he's joking around with the guy. We've established that we like to joke around with him, and we tease him about being a very cheap individual. But we told him this time there's no help. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, the data's gone. Well, like, I seen it on TV. The data's never really gone. Oh, no, that's a great TV show. But the data's gone. Like, it is, there is no backups. There is no, this thing has completely, it broke. The drive is like the platter. The pieces came off. For those of you that want to know the technical details, the platter broke, the glass in it, because it had the laptop hard drive. It's just a mess. There's no getting this data back, and he doesn't. He was dumbfounded by this and very upset. But this comes down to sometimes if you're trying to do that, you attract some of those. I imagine this guy, the person who charges this accounting firm very small amounts of money, probably doesn't like answering his phone, because he comes out there, he offers these flat rate services for $30. They'll come out to your office. But it's also why he's been in business for 10, 12 years. I've known the guy for a while that does his IT work, and he's still a one-man show. Sometimes a two-man show, but I don't. He finds random people to work for him that I don't know that are
under the table probably, or
kind
something
of,
like it.
Yeah, he had this old retired guy. He seemed nice, but kind of strange. And I see some of these people, they come and go, and it's one of the problems is if you're not thinking about how you're going to grow your business, if you start out like, well, hey, when I charge $30, I make $30 goes right in my pocket, and I can undercut Tom because he's got staff and a building and things like that. Well, maybe that's what you want, is to always be that way, and that's fine. If that's what your choice is, but you have to think about that. The reason I charge all this and the reason I do have all these expenses in the building and employees and staff and insurance, bonded, all those things that are important to running a business is it was priced for growth. I always charged a lot because I plan to hire people to do it. And you can't hire people to do it if you start charging very little. You now have just worked yourself into being trapped. You're like, wow, I'm only charging this much, so I don't. Now, the good news is in the beginning, you do kind of enjoy a good margin.
Yes.
Technically, my margin a little bit goes down when you start paying someone, but then you make up for it by freeing yourself up because now you can bill and the other person can bill, and eventually you're like me and have maybe 8 people working for you, and I'm sitting here making a video, and I got everyone out there billing right now, man. I got a project going, I got like a team working on some stuff, and then we use contractors as well, but I couldn't hire a contractor. I'd have to do everything myself if I didn't bill enough for it.
Well, you say bill enough. But you said something earlier that I wanted to stop you from saying, but of course I couldn't, was I charge too much.
Yeah.
You said that. You don't charge too much. Because you've taken your model and you go, okay, this is what this costs, this is what that costs, and you mention out, you've got the part, you've got the time for service, you've got what you're paying for your insurance, your rent, your employees. That all has to factor into your price.
Yeah, and it has to factor into the beginning price if you're starting up a tech company and you just want, and it's really hard. So if you went in and you go, I'm going to go steal Tom's customers by offering half rate, and then I'm going to increase rate over time. Well, I've had people offer, a lot of my good clients will never switch. They're just kind of like, why would I go with someone half the price? It's not, they're not always thinking about price. Now, price does matter, and I'm going to do a separate video on some of my MSP stuff and talk about how the practices I do and things like that. And pricing is really hard because it's very market driven. And when the market is sparse, like let's say Wi-Fi installs, we've been doing a lot of them, and I've been trying to figure out am I underpricing or not. And I think the other companies may be overpricing, and this is where the free market kind of helps decide. But when there's very few people, it's hard to get indicators. And this is a perfect example, and maybe the person, because he found me from YouTube, is watching this, and he realized that for managed Wi-Fi service, every 3 months, because they're leasing him the hardware and providing the service. So they say this much per month you have Wi-Fi in your building. Right. Like this is the fee. How much do you set that fee at? Well, this company set it so high that every 3 months, and he's got 200 Wi-Fi access points, every 3 months, he completely can buy all the access points, and he doesn't own them now. So is that too much? At the time when this company presented it, no. But now they've been a few years into it. I mean, at least no, because there wasn't another comparison they had because this company's been doing it for a few years, and that's what they think the right price is. I don't know. Should someone be making $200,000 a year profit for one place on Wi-Fi? No. It seems kind of high to me. So we came in with a proposal that does allow me to make money and doesn't cost them where they're buying the entire service in only 3 months. So
it goes to integrity and greed. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about that. You have integrity, and you know that you have to price to be. A business has to make a profit.
Right.
Has to. But you have the integrity to say that this is what it's really going to cost. Now, another business can be greedy. Now, so you came in and undercut, and you talked about someone coming in, but you undercut it in a way that it still made sense to you to not have greed in your business. I mean, it goes to integrity or greed. Right.
And so there's the happy balance you have to find. So when you're setting your prices, you do kind of have to look around, maybe shop the competition a little bit. Mm-hmm. And if you want to know, like, what's the trick to becoming a millionaire type thing? Well, sometimes, and we were just...
Play the lottery.
Play the lottery is one of them. And the way you can undercut prices, there's ways you can. It's one of the books I've recommended before is Jay Samit wrote a book called Disrupt You. Wonderful book. And when you disrupt a marketplace because you have a new innovative way of doing something and you go, hey, wow, these companies have been doing it the hard way. If, for example, the remote support method we use, and now everyone's going, well, remote support's common. Actually, one of the things that we've taken away from a lot of these companies is doing everything remotely and managing it. We're doing these bids, and they're like, well, we're used to the other guys that charge us 2 hours of drive time every time they come out. Then they seem to take 2 hours to do something. Every time we call them, they want to show up on site every single time.
Right.
And because that's their billing model, they're used to doing on site. We go, wow, most of these problems are, problem with Outlook. I can fix it remotely. Problem with the printer. I can fix it remotely. So we try to focus on a remote, which now saves both people money. So I'm able to save the company money while still myself remaining profitable because we don't have to leave. So I don't lose a technician for an hour of driving in traffic. My technician now has a good billable rate because he can flat rate a small amount of time. So that is a disruptive model where we can make a lot more money in the tech field. And it's funny because it's 2018 and I'm still my friends works for one of those companies that they do not do anything remotely.
They drive to it.
Yes. They have, I think they have 9 or 10 techs, but the owner wants everyone to drive because drive is billable. That's his answer. Drive is billable, man. Why did you tell him how to click it on the phone? Drive out there and click it for him because that's a $150 bill for you showing up.
So 8 or 9 techs and at billable hours. Think if he did his remotely, he could probably cut his techs in half and increase his profit by a big margin. I'm not going to say huge, but a big margin.
And that's what we've gotten, and this is just the way the market's gone, as we've gotten better and better at remote support. Remote support tools have gotten better. The ability to do things has gotten easier. And because of that, it's made my company more profitable and we drive less. But it's funny to see here in 2018, there's still companies that really focus on that. So there are other ways you can undercut the market and save companies money on IT. And the reason I bring up the Jay Samit Disrupt You is because the book is full of, not related to tech always, but tons of little ideas of how companies saved a fortune by doing some innovative market change. There's all these little stories like how Pennzoil got started by no one had the idea before Pennzoil to put oil in a plastic container. That was what made that $1 billion company. Was everyone used these stupid spillable? You remember the ones?
I remember you had to push the hole. They had this nozzle.
Yeah,
and if you don't remember that, you're missing something.
You're missing something in life. You're not as old as us, or you never worked on cars. But so those little things that can disrupt the market. And those are ways you can find different angles that are really lucrative because there's no one else in the market. Versus some things, and we'll bring up my cabling. There was a discussion in one of the forums. These are public forums you can find on Facebook or on Reddit for people discussing tech business. And someone's like, wow, I'm getting undercut all over the place on the cabling installs. I'm like, yeah, we've kept our prices reasonable on that, but I see people charging a lot more. But once you get into a very commoditized, I need to run a cable from here to here, I need a wall plate on it. There's not much margin for that. It's a commoditized product. So you got to think about it too. If you're doing a commoditized product that's very easy to price, you're not going to make as much money. And it kind of, you got to be careful because it can be a little bit of a race to zero margin. So you always got to be looking at where you're providing value for your clients.
Right. Well, you do a lot more than just that too. But sometimes you have to charge for what's in here. I mean, in my business, I charge for what's in here mostly, and you have to as well because you there's a lot of things you're doing that are only in Tom's head.
Right.
and that's a valuable information that you only Tom can extract.
Well, and that's something that we do sell is consulting services, just like he does. He does business consulting. I do IT consulting, and the people that understand it, and some people don't. And I made someone angry yesterday because they didn't get it. They called and just wanted me to walk them through all the network equipment and tell them what to buy for their setup, and they thought I should just I said, no, we have a fee for this. We'll do a network design fee. Kind of give me a list of what, like your goal. I always say start with a goal, start with how you want your network planned. Just give me a general layout. I look at it, and for a fee, I will tell you what components go where. We do this kind of consulting all the time for other IT companies, for other IT managers. This is a service we offer. It works really well. We're doing a consulting for an IT firm. They're doing a big move. They've never moved a company. They maintain their internal IT team maintains their IT. They've never done a move. So they consulted us on how to do the move, how to set up all the equipment, and what equipment to put in place at the new building to make the transition really smooth. So, that's a consulting fee. I have an hourly rate. I gave them a price, and that's just charging for knowledge I have. And how do you set the price on that? They're willing to pay quite a bit for it because they want a smooth transition.
Right.
I guarantee it. I have a good reputation for doing this type of work, and you can set flat prices for that. You can give them an hourly fee just because they want to hang out with me. Your time is super valuable, and if you want to hang out with me, my time is super valuable, and I charge a lot for me directly.
Right.
Flat rating things works really well. How much they tell me the scope of project and go, I got to move from here to here, and here's how many staff members there are, and here's how many network drops there's going to be, and I go, here's the price. I'll tell you, I'll just do it for this price, fixed, guaranteed,
Right.
done, and away you go. And that goes into one more thing I want to talk about with pricing.
Yeah.
Is this in the tech world? I can set up a VPN really, really fast. The new guy cannot.
Right.
So you have to think about that in your pricing model. Don't necessarily charge things per hour. You know how many years I've been doing some of these technical things? I can do them, half awake.
Right,
and
yeah.
still get them right. Versus, as you know, when you're new, you're like, wow, there's a lot of things to learn. So you don't always want to price per hour. You want to try whenever you can to flat rate things. And then you decide whether or not you do it or you outsource it to someone, and you have to figure out how much you're paying your techs. But it's a lot of moving components in there, but it also helps
Yes.
how you create your margin. Flat rating stuff helps you quite a bit, and setting the prices so you can think about where you want to be is important. There's the other perspective of what do people think of the guy who wants $30 versus the guy that wants $150 to do the same thing.
Well, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, and business owners are savvy.
You get what you pay for in that respect, especially in your world. I gotta
yeah.
say, because I've seen good companies like you, and I've seen some not so good companies, which I will not mention, that have worked with some of my clients, and that I'm trying to get them over to Tom. Tom's going to be working with a client that I've had, but it's funny how you got that referral away from me, but we're both working with the same client here in an area that we have,
Yeah.
and he's going to be taking over their IT work, and they had somebody that, well, they did a flat rate, but their flat rate was astronomical.
Yeah, and their service quality was bad.
Very
long drive times because they're about 2 hours away.
Right.
They have. I looked at their website. It's crazy. I don't.
We're not mentioning the
You
name.
want to mention a name, but if you want a way not to do things and just be confusing, the way they word things, everything is. Yeah, that's why the company wants to switch. They've not gotten good service. Really important in anything is being able to deliver on your things. This is, he has taught a lot about integrity, and it's really important in his business and my business. Is if you sell a product, how to deliver on it. And some of these companies come up with these high prices as if they're doing it. And when you think about it, the reason a lot of business owners, they actually do understand value, and the ones that don't maybe aren't the right clients for you. I hate always saying that. Sometimes I've had clients, but this is also what's led to firing clients. And there's a reason a lot of them are driving a nice Mercedes or something like that. They understand the value and the luxury comforts of having a nice vehicle and things like that. This same thing kind of goes for you. If they look at you as the Mercedes, or they look at you as, oh, wow, you're the kind of crappy 2001 Toyota.
How about a Pinto?
Yeah, you're the Pinto over here.
I love my Pinto.
Yeah, Pintos were cool, as long as you get rear to buy them.
They were a really cool car. All right.
So it's also that perception you have on yourself. We try to keep a level, as much as I joke around, and we're both wearing. You got a golf shirt on. We're both wearing shorts, things like that. But when it comes down to business, my guys show up with Lawrence Technology shirts on. We look presentable. We make sure things are organized. We make sure that all of our work, top to bottom, our wiring jobs are one of those ones where you have a very visible after result, because they can look at the wiring. We even have vacuums is an important thing that are in our trucks, so we vacuum up
And
all
clean
the
up your mess.
Yeah, we clean up our mess. Like there's a whole presentation. Well, of course, how can I pay a guy? If I'm paying a guy the bottom dollar, he's gonna go, I'm barely making anything on this job. I'm ready to get out of here, man. I got something better to go do because I'm not making much money. As this goes into, I pay my staff very well.
Right.
I can't afford to pay them well if I wasn't charging well. And it goes full circle. As I see these people complaining they can't find technicians, I'm like, you're trying to hire a guy for a minimum wage. Well, it's all I can afford. I'm trying to be the guy in town that takes all the business, so I got my prices down here at the bottom, and I'm going to try and make it up in quantity. So I'm trying to pay minimum wage, and I can't figure out why I can't find a super good tech. And I'm like, yeah, you can kind of see how this all compounds into why you need to charge for your services.
Because all the super good techs are coming to work for you.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, let's face it, you've got a great team.
Yeah, and building a great team is not just pay; it's also creating an environment and things like that. Because obviously, there's driving. No one, maybe someone likes driving. driving around traffic here in Detroit's awful.
It is.
And my friend who works at a company, they pay him very well, but he's that's why I have a lot of insight. I have a lot of IT friends, and one of them, he works at a company, they pay him well, and he's been there a long time, but he hates that they just make him get in a car all the time because that way he can generate billable hours. It drives him nuts. And he's like, they pay for his car, they pay for everything. Like he's got a company car, a company phone, and they do a lot of specialized work, but he's just like, man, I have to drive out for stuff I know I could just click. He's come here and hung out with us. He's like, you guys just like click a button. I'm like, yeah, they won't allow remote support. For the owner's just like really old school. You wouldn't be able to bill as much if you did that.
What
like,
century are we in?
I know.
I'm just sitting there thinking, within years, we're going to have screens that just pop up right in front of us. I mean, they already have that technology.
Oh, I know. We're doing this all the time. So, but I can't tell you what to exactly set your prices for.
It's going to be different for everybody.
It's going to be different based on your area. And that's kind of where I'm going to leave this here. We don't pay a ton for this building because we're south of Detroit and the rates are really good. Detroit is weird because if you go on the north side of Detroit, it's not just double, it's about 10 times as much to rent a building. We pay for this building, a few $1,000s a month in costs for this building. Because we're in the southern Wayne County area, if we go to Oakland County, that same building is about $5,000 in costs per month just to have the building, and with the same square footage. So you have to kind of price accordingly. If you live in New York and you're in Manhattan, you probably couldn't. People see the price. I've seen the prices text charged there, and people say that's ridiculous. I'm like, well, no.
They have to cover their costs.
Have to cover your costs. Well, you lived in Seattle, so you know too. Seattle, man, there's neighborhoods that have over $1 million the average home price.
Exactly.
So you have to price accordingly. So I can't. If I told you prices, now this is where the remote thing works out good for us because I thought our remote rate was reasonable and high until someone we did some work in California. They're like, "How can you live on that rate?" And I'm like, "Pretty well, actually."
Come down here and see where we're at.
But of course, we're doing Wi-Fi for this apartment complex, and we gave them a lot of flat rates to get some of the project done for them because it's all just the remote programming and they're doing the physical layer. But because we were looking at it, we're like, oh wow, that's only a $5,000 a month apartment. Like they pay more for an apartment than we pay for a building here.
Yeah, that's it. It's intense. But so you said something about you being here and being able to do remote, and I want to plug Tom a little bit here, is because if you're out in Oakland County or if you're anywhere, Tom can remote.
Yeah.
And give you a better price.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to say that, but you're going to get the expertise that Tom has, the expertise his team has, and not have to pay somebody to go drive your location.
Right, and it goes back to, we talked a little bit about it before, but it's like cost of living allowances and things like that. California is an example. There's an article about the working homeless. These people are making $80,000 a year and are homeless. And they live in their car because California prices are that expensive. So when you think about and factor all those prices in, it makes it very hard to build a tech company that does service with remotely because you're like, I have to pay my technicians $150K a year to that, so all of your prices get scaled upwards. So if you happen to be in an area that's very more rural, you can do very well. And I mentioned before, and we've done a video together before, me and Chris from Crosstalk Solutions. His business model is interesting, and he lives in a beautiful, more remote area in the other side of the state. That's not in a dense city, but he also doesn't have a lot of those expenses. He's been able to run his consultancy business that way and do well, and he's actually also built an entire remote team. He doesn't have a building like I do that his team goes to. He manages them remotely, and that's also another perspective, but Chris ain't the cheapest. I'll tell you that right now. His project prices, they're reasonable. They're of good value. He's really wicked smart and does a good job. But he's also, just because he doesn't have what you visibly see like I am with a building, he still has a team he pays, he still works and coordinates that, so you will have to charge for that. So you got to find that happy balance. Like I said, I can't just throw it out there and say this is your prices, but I will tell you that if your concept of starting a business is I'm just going to undercut everybody, that's my first sign that you're probably not going to be in business long.
Right.
So unless you've come up with an innovative, new way to do business, a neat idea, and the remote thing's not new, but it's clearly new to this other company.
Right. They're not doing that.
Yeah, they're not doing that when we've been able to snag customers. So unless you're doing something really market changing and different, and if you're going to start a business, think about that. Think about all those factors before you get in, before you jump into it. So I'll leave you with that, and thank you. Oh, and I'll leave in the links below where you can find out more about Brett, and you guys know about me. So,
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and click the thumbs up. Leave us some feedback below to let us know any details, what you like and didn't like as well, because we love hearing the feedback. Or if you just want to say thanks, leave a comment. If you want to be notified of new videos as they come out, go ahead and hit the subscribe and the bell icon. That lets YouTube know that you're interested in notifications. Hopefully they send them, as we've learned with YouTube. Anyways, if you want to contract us for consulting services, you go ahead and hit lawrencesystems.com, and you can reach out to us for all the projects that we can do and help you. We work with a lot of small businesses, IT companies, even some large companies, and you can farm different work out to us or just hire us as a consultant to help design your network. Also, if you want to help the channel in other ways, we have a Patreon. We have affiliate links. You'll find them in the description. You'll also find recommendations to other affiliate links and things you can sign up for on lawrencesystems.com. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.